Welcome to Management 280 online offered by Harper College. My name is Dr. George Mochocki. This week's reading, let me talk a little bit last week. You did real well with the key motivation plan that you came up with. Remember, there's no one way to motivate anyone like I talked before. Each individual is unique. So if you look at the different theorists that you read about with last week, and now you have to apply it to your business, to your corporate structure and your own personality, and the employees that you're hiring, are the baby boomers or the Generation X. So you did very well on that, all right? You're beginning to do well in responding to other people within the forums. And remember, we're going forward now. So if I'm going forward, I'm not only looking at quantity in your forums, I am expecting substance, just like you would be, what do you call it? Emailing or communicating at work. I want some substance, quality. Not just, yes, you did a nice job. I need a little substance. And your form points are going to be evaluated on that substance and quantity, both of those aspects. Okay, so what are we going to do this week? This week, we're going to be doing, we're going to have one form. It's going to be worth more points, but you're going to be doing 2 assessments. One's going to be on decision-making styles, so you're going to look at the decision-making styles. You're going to do another one on your conflict styles, and then you're going to tell me how you ranked on your decision-making and the score or ranking on your conflict style. What would you do to change? Do you think both your communication and conflict style, is there any, is that combination works well for you, or you don't or you think maybe not works well, maybe I should adjust one or the other? Okay, remember, in business, how you resolve conflicts, whether it's with employees or whether it's with customers, is very important in a leadership's attributes. Because if I'm looking at leaders now, there's so much discontent between unions, between customers, between the political between activists, between environmental group, everything that a business has to deal with. So from the corporate structure at the higher level manager position, which you are all striving for, we are looking for leaders who know how to diffuse conflict, how to negotiate conflict, and how to come up with a win-win situation for everything else. So that's your one form that's you're going to have today. It's going to be worth 25 points. You have 2 assessments and 1 form. Okay, so now I give you kind of a prelude of what's going to be happening. Let me kind of change a little. So not really change it, just how I do my YouTubes. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing. This week we're going to be reading 3 chapters. Chapter 9, Effective Groups and Teams. Chapter 10, Decision Making, and the assessments will help you on that. In Chapter 11, conflicts. So after you read the chapters, it'll make sense when you're responding to the 2 assessments what they're looking for. Okay, so let's look at Chapter 9, Effective Groups. And remember, I want you to start using a conceptual map. You got the concept maps. They're all in there. I've been kind of updating because the book is a new book. This is the 5th edition. So I'll just let you, one little thing I haven't updated on the map yet. It says 3 dimensions of trust. In the new version, it's 3 fundamentals of trust. So when you're doing the quiz and you're looking at me talking about 3 dimensions, we're using the concept maps as 3 fundamentals of trust, and they basically change just a little bit. But everything else on that is perfectly. And this is a quick and easy way to see what's the whole chapter. And when you're doing your research papers, and if you're writing on a topic, you could at least use some of the verbiage from the book reading into that, which will make your paper more credible, reliable, and it it will show that you've learned the course material from this chapter and applied it in a research paper utilizing the concepts and the business terms. Okay, so now the first chapter, Chapter 9, Teamworking. Important chapter. You look at all this, how do you develop a team? Each member of a team, whether you're at a church or in school or you're at your work, you play different roles. Sometimes I'm a leader, other times I'm a staff position, other times I'm just a gopher. Remember, no matter what position you are in the corporate, as you move up, you're going to be in cross-functional teams. You're not always going to be the person in charge on these cross-functional teams. Sometimes a person with less status than you will be in that leadership position on that team. You have to look at that person and respect the position that he or she is the leader, because of the skill sets that they have for that one to solve that issue or that problem and how to make a correct decision when we get to the next chapter, okay? So you fall back. You're still going to be I'm still a superintendent, I'm still a manager, I'm still a vice president, whatever, but when I'm on this team, for whatever reason, I may just be a subordinate to the team. So make sure you look at that. Yeah, look at the norms. All teams have norms. And you as a team leader have to decide how to instill the norms for each team. Look, I have different norms when I'm in a team at school. I have different norms when I'm a team at work. I have different norms when I'm a team playing bowling or golfing, where I'm yelling, screaming. What's acceptable norms may not be acceptable norms depending on the situation and the team. So you as a team leader have to be able to instill those norms so the team knows what the norms are. Okay, so then you have the team, which, you know, they talked about informal team, formal team, all the, in this case, you're looking at how do you set up processes, policies so teams flourish, and how do I reward them? It's all at the corporate level. So start thinking of that, not just as the teams here talk about. Think, how do I set up, train my managers, and what kind of reward systems I have at a corporate level deciding policy. Okay, trust, you know, you have in that self-managed teams. You have a lot of companies going more self-managed teams, going more functional teams, going more matrix type of a team. You have virtual teams. Now, one thing I want you to look at out of the whole thing is Lewins' group development process. We all in the team, out of this whole chapter, look at this. You go through different stages. First stage is forming. Second, I mean, well, we meet everyone. Hey, how you doing? Second stage is storming. At the storming stage, you basically, now your personalities come out. And then the third, you know, let's start with first stage. You meet somebody real nice, you know, going out on a date with you. So after a couple of months, we have our little fights or spats. And then the third stage, norming. Now we become kind of friends. We kind of know which buttons not to push, what I like, what I don't like. And then we go into the performance stage. We're really working as a couple. We're in tune with everything else. And then maybe sometimes we adjourn. So when you look at the different stages, if I'm a new team, forming a new team, how do I instill those values, the norms? And the storming, I have to be aware of the storming personalities coming out, and I have to be able to monitor and contain the storming or the conflict so it doesn't break up the team. And then norming, performing means now I'm a good team. Look at a basketball team. A basketball team starts off, we got, okay, let's look at the Cubs or the Sox, or if you look at the football teams or basketball teams. If it's a brand new team, you don't expect them to end up at the series or win the championship, because they're still too new. They have to work together. After they've been in a season, a couple of seasons, you'll see the team starts working as they figure out who's the strong person, who's the thing. They start performing. Now, one thing to remember, some teams never leave the storming. Just like a relationship, you have some people who meet somebody, they go to the things, they don't go to the norming, they're always at the storming. And so they're never going to be performing, they're never going to be doing well. And the other thing you have to remember, when if one member of the team leaves that team, let's say it's a long-term team, most teams in management at the middle level management position are either from 6 months plus. They're none of this 1 week, 2 weeks. Very, very rare, unless it's an emergency or something's coming up and we try to come up with something, usually the long-term teams. So if one member leaves out of the team, it's very important to bring the right member in, has the skill sets or maybe more skill sets, but you have to understand as a team leader, the whole process starts again. He has to adjust or she has to adjust, and then they have to find a way, they have to build the trust, they have to develop the norms, just like a company does in large things. Just look at this as a micro version of it, okay? Then we're going to talk about virtual teams. That's why I look at this online class. It's like a virtual classroom, just as active as a face-to-face class, okay? And the symptoms of group team, thing. Sometimes we're with a team so much we don't see fallacies or problems coming up because we look at the forest and don't see the trees as individuals. So we just see the big picture and we just get all wrapped up in that. Okay, so look how to avoid groupthink. The next chapter we're going to be talking about, which ties in with this, is decision making. Part of the teams is how to make decisions. And as a leader, you have to come up with different. You have to understand that when you read this chapter, there are different people, just like you do in the motivation, think differently. People make decisions differently. So as a team leader, I have to be able to understand, how do I find that common ground and how do I utilize all different decision thinking methods that individuals have and be able to bring them in. One thing about coming up with decisions, if you look at a team, I do not want, you're going to talk about intuitive people who come up with ideas right away. And then they're going to be talking about people who are thinkers. And if you look at the thinkers or toxic type of individual, they're basically thinking. They're not sleeping in your meetings. They're not doing anything else, but they're thinking. But I don't know what the heck they're thinking. It's in their mind. It's quiet. I'm not a mind reader. So I need these intuitive individuals like myself who just throws up ideas. It may not be what I really mean at the time. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. I toss it out. What that does, it gives a common element in the middle for the team. So everyone's, oh, wait a minute, I thought about that. But, I was thinking about that. Nah, that doesn't make sense. And now you have the thinkers and intuitive. Everyone's coming in, so you come up with the process. So remember, your job as a team leader is to utilize all those different thinking models that you're going to learn. The rational model, the non-rational model, Simon's normative models, garbage in, garbage out. Remember, if you just say, let's just get this thing out of here and we're out of here just to finish it, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's no different. Just look at it if you would be on a jury and you're deciding somebody's fate. You don't want garbage in, garbage out. You want to make sure that you have the facts and everything else because you have a life at stake in here. No different when you have this. You have people's jobs at stake. You have the company's reputation at stake. You have capital investment at stake. So you want to make good decisions. Sometimes you just need a real quick decision because there's not much of an impact. That should be very rare and seldom, okay? Now you've got decision-making bias. We all have our own decision-making bias. I think this is the right decision. You think this is the right decision. Part of the teams, part of this thing with the decision-making is that we all have to come together and see other points of view. And then we come up with the right decision. Now, sometimes the decision isn't what I wanted it to be, but if the team, remember, we're a majority, we're a team. If they say this is the way it goes, I will give it 100%. When I go back to the office, well, the team made this up, but I didn't really want to support this. You're not going to get support from your subordinates because they're going to say, hey, my boss doesn't believe it. And remember, they're there to make you happy. So remember, what kind of policies you have. And some of the policies you have, if you don't back up the team and it comes up through the grapevine or there's some kind of a check and balance that you are on process, that's all company policies to make sure once the decision has been agreed upon, solidified, implemented, all team members, all managerial positions that have control and authority, and all empowered employees, which basically all should be following the same drumbeat, looking at the same corporate vision, the same message, and working going out forward. And then you got group decision. A group decision is better than individual decision. Depends. If I wanted to, I think the research shows that individual decisions may be a little more accurate. But why do people do group decisions? You have all aspects. You get more of a buy-in. You get a bigger picture. You have a more of a holistic decision instead of just a single point or my just viewpoints from my memory banks, what I experience. I got other people's experience, so I end up with a better decision. Okay, and then look at group problem solving techniques, consensus, brainstorming, normative, Delphi method, computer aid system. Remember, computer aid system helps in decision making, but it doesn't make the decision. It just gives you this because it doesn't have that intuitive, it doesn't have the feelings and everything else that you're looking at it, the political or the ramification, how it's going to be affected within the society outside from my PR, public relations. Even though this thing says though this way, oh geez, that'd be a PR nightmare. Remember. You have to make those decisions at the corporate level. Okay, so we've got this one. So we're doing pretty good at that one. So that takes care of chapter 10. And now we're going to do chapter 11, conflict and negotiation. Goodness sakes, conflict and negotiation. Even people I love, I fight with. So now think about people that not that I don't love them, I respect them, but I'm in a corporate setting. You're going to have conflict and you're going to have conflict. This is part of nature. There's no way to get around conflict. Yeah. So how do I work with conflict, and how do I resolve conflict, and how do I negotiate conflict, and how do I make the right decision, and how do I maintain that the team doesn't get mad at each other because they didn't get their way, but they're mature enough using emotional intelligence because I've had the training, I've got the right, remember through the other chapters, we hired the right person, we did the right assessments on them. So now let's look at conflicts. What do we have? You can't avoid conflict. It's going to be there. You looked at me wrong, I tripped at you. How do I diffuse the conflict? You're going to look at different cues for conflicts. You're going to see in there why people avoid conflict. As a leader, you can't avoid. I don't want to nitpick you on everything. Some conflicts let go, but I have to be aware that they don't escalate. Look how something small could become a big conflict before if you're not managing it properly. Desired outcomes of conflict. You have some conflict's good. If you don't have conflicts, everyone is the same. Conflict is part of stress. Conflict is a motivation. If you have conflict, what's a conflict? We have two different opposing ideas. If you look at what's going on in the political side, the Democrats have one idea, the Republicans have another idea. They have all this. It's not a real big conflict. It depends how big it gets escalated. But we have different ideas. Then we come to the negotiating table and we try to find something that we could both parties could live with. Okay, personality conflict. Whether you like it or not, I bring in my personality into the conflict resolution. If I'm kind of a jerky or standing off or looking down at the type of individual, that's going to come across and give me the wrong nonverbal cues, nonverbal messages to the other individual, which may be like pouring a fuel, for lack of better words, on already a vital or explosive situation. So my personality and my conflict, I got to resolve it. I have to put on a different face, a little bit more serious, more of an in tune to listen to the person more than just giving advice. I got to understand the situation and then make a decision how I'm going to handle that. Okay, intergroup conflict. They may not be fighting with me as an instructor, but the group may be fighting. One or two members could be fighting. That could affect the whole team. How do I minimize that? How do I manage that? And how do I bring that into the whole group so we know how to resolve that and become, when you look at the last chapter, we'll be reading down the road, chapter 16, a learning organization. Okay, how do I build cross-cultural relationship? Remember, I'm a marketing and management individual. When I deal with engineers, even though they work with me, there's what do you call it, a functional conflict. I think differently than they think. I'm looking at customer satisfaction. They're thinking strictly at quality and cost containment. So we have to find some kind of mutual agreement. But there is some conflict. Now take that same thing with different cultures. I'm Polish, you're Russian, you're Chinese, you're Indian, you're from Mexico, you're second generation, you're a Generation Y, I'm a baby boomer, I'm an millennial. I forgot the other one. All right. But if I look at that, all those different cultures create a conflict within. I may misunderstand it. If I go, hey, you're really hot, and I'm thinking, if I'm strictly from the overseas, really hot, I'm not sweating, I'm doing okay. No, hot, you're very attractive. You see what I mean? So, or if I touch you the wrong way, if I come too close to you, proximity. Certain cultures may step back. I may have certain kind of a food that has a different kind of a smell to it. That could be a conflictual because I'm very sensitive, or I have asthma problems, and certain flavors or smells basically may make me nauseous. So a lot of companies, to resolve some of that, in that case, they have a hygiene policy. So whether you have too much perfume on or you have body odor because you don't, because you kind of have a body odor. I'll leave it at that. Okay. So how do I resolve that? How do I build those relationships? But I want those other people's attitudes, ideas, and everything else, because that's what makes us unique and very diversified in the company. The diversification is not just to meet some kind of quota for the government. I got so many people from different aspects. Because we're becoming more global, more diversified, I have to have people from all different cultures, understanding. When I understand how they think, I think as a little white Polish person, that's who I am. I can't, that's who I am. How do I know how an African American thinks? I may have an idea because what I see or see. How do I know how an Asian or someone from China, or a Chinese person? I can't group them all together. They think a lot differently than the Korean, and they think a lot differently than someone from South or North Korea, and they think a lot different than what do you call it, Japanese. So all those cultures got its own strengths and weaknesses. I just got to bring them, make sure I build on that, because that's what's going to make me very successful going forward. This is what I mentioned before, where if I look at the Chinese government, they're trying to figure out how do we get this creativity within our nation. It's kind of hard because everyone's Chinese. Everyone has, even though I know there's different sects, there's different regions that have different kind of cultures, but overall they have one large homogeneous understanding together. We're in the U.S., we're all over. I got Chinese, I got Asians, I got from India, I got Muslims, I got Jews, I got Christians, I've got atheists. All that makes us strong. All that makes us strong. But it has to be managed at the company, and the company has to know, bring the right people, have the right policies to manage it. Okay, third party intervention, 5 ways to handle conflict. Okay, now I have conflict. You know, I could kiss up to somebody, I could obligate them, I could dominate them by force, and I could avoid them, I could compromise. Look at that. Depends on the situation or depend on the conflict. Okay, that's it. That's our 3 chapters. Chapters 9, that's going to be on, what do you call it? Chapter 9 is on teamwork. Chapter 10 is on decision making, and chapter 11 on negotiation. So interesting chapter. You have 2 assessments you do. You have 1 forum. You're going to answer all the questions in the assessment. The first post I expect to be not that lengthy, but at least a few paragraphs on the first post. The other posts I expect you to at least give me 3 or 4 sentences, not just one-liners, because you're not going to get the point. You know what I mean? 3 different times, 3 different students each time, and you know, and in response to something I responded to you. I want to, you know, not I responded to him. I want to have a business professional communication using the first name, using ideas, agreeing and why you agree, utilizing some of the concepts and terminology out of this book. Your forum points are going to be, you know, they're fairly easy so far. I'm going to start tightening them up a little because, as anything else, you already went through the learning process. You're in the norming. I want you to start performing now, and by performing, I want you to input your reading materials, concepts in here. I want you to respond with professional full sentences and with substance going forward. Okay, my name is Dr. George Mochocki. This is Harper College Management 280 online, offered by Harper College, utilizing Blackboard Course Management System, and I'll see you on the forum, and have a nice day. Bye.